Bapak Ibu, we can start. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thanks to speaker Dr. Jana and also Mr. Immanuel Alfonsus for their willingness to come to our seminar or our transdisciplinary tea talk, which is organized by Center for Transdisciplinary and Sustainability Science, little bit difficult, and Departemen Manajemen Faculty of Forestry and Environment IPB University. And I would like also to thanks to the all participants who are joining this afternoon in this very valuable meeting. So before we start with the presentation, there is some opening remark. First of all, it's the opening remark from Professor Damayanti Buchori as the Director of Center for Transdisciplinary and Sustainability Science, and the second opening remark from Dr. Muhdin as the head of the Department of Forest Management. So, Bu Damayanti, please start.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leti. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see you again. Here with me, I have two wonderful speakers, Immanuel and also Ibu Jana. It's an honor to have you here. So this is the 19th discussion for TTT that is hosted by CTSS. In this occasion, I would like to thank the Departemen Manajemen Hutan, Forest Management, to host this together. As a center that focuses on sustainability, I think the discussion today or the talk today cannot come more at the right time when we know that the palm oil in Indonesia has been how should I say that, being very scrutinized by all, by the world, especially the European communities. And hence Indonesia really has to show that how our palm oil is actually in line with the sustainable issues that are concerned by everyone. So today we're going to hear two wonderful presentation on a project that has been going on, I think, for about 10 years, 11 years in Jambi. It's a big project called the Efforts Project. And the focus of the project itself is actually land use transformation of land use from forest to other land uses. And so as part of the CTSS, I really would like again to thank all of you, and let us really learn from the speakers today and think together of how sustainability and palm oil can actually go hand in hand. So I think with that, I would like to end my remark, and again, thank you, Ibu Leti, for making this possible, and also Jana and Immanuel, and let's go forward with the agenda. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dani, for your very good remark. And the second remark is from Dr. Muhdin as the head of the Department of Forest Management. Please, Pak Muhdin, can you hear us?
Oke, baik, terima kasih Bu Leti. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Bu Leti? Oke.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oke. Baik, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, salam sehat dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Head of Center for Transdisciplinary and Sustainability Sciences IPB University, Profesor Dr. Insinyur Damayanti Buchori, guest speaker Dr. Jana, Juhrbandt, and Mr. Immanuel Alfonsus, the moderator, Dr. Leti Sundawati, and all of the happy audience who have attended the seminar. Alhamdulillah wa syukurillah wa la haula wa la quwata illa billah. First of all, we would like to express our gratitude to the presence of Allah the Almighty, because it is by His grace that we are all currently given health and opportunity, so that we can gather together in hybrid combination of offline and online in the seminar event this afternoon. On behalf of Forest Management Department, or DMNH, Faculty of Forestry and Environment, IPB University, of course, we really welcome this seminar event, which this time was held in collaboration with the MNH and the Center for Transdisciplinary and Sustainability Sciences IPB University. Terima kasih Prof. Damayanti Buchori sebagai Kepala CTSS IPB University atas kerjasamanya. Semoga ke depan kerjasama ini bisa terus berlanjut, bahkan meningkat dengan aksinya di lapangan yang terus semakin memberikan manfaat untuk masyarakat, ya, harapan kita seperti itu. The topic of the seminar is very interesting, exploring a sustainable land use option in the oil palm landscape. A topic that is very relevant to the current situation in land use practices in general, and very possibly related to forest management in particular. We extend our deepest gratitude to the guest speakers, Dr. Jana Juhrbandt and Mr. Immanuel Alfonsus, for sharing the result of your research or study. We also thank Dr. Leti Sundawati, who is pleased to be the moderator at the event this afternoon, and together with the DMNH Sekretariat, UKTU, Pak Afiat, Parang, dan lain-lain, who have facilitated this event. We also thank all attendees, both offline and online, for your attendance and participation. Hope enjoy the seminar, and hopefully this event will be useful. Finally, as the host, let me apologize if there were any mistakes, flaws, or unpleasant aspects of this event. May we all always be in good health and happy as well. That is all of my speech. Thank you. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Muhdin. And then now we come to our main event, that is a presentation. But maybe please, Jana, before you present it, maybe you can introduce yourself first. For example, you have graduated from Goettingen education, etc. Please, Jana, you can start also sharing the stage.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leti, Udami, Muhdin. Thank you very much for inviting us here for this seminar today. I'd like to share with you today our the start of our project, the Sustainable Village project. I can briefly introduce myself. So I am postdoc at the Department of Agricultural Economics and Rural Development at the University of Goettingen. And I will today share this presentation with Immanuel, who will also do his PhD thesis in our department. This is the chair of Environmental and Resource Economics from Professor Dr. Michael Bolny. I would now start to share the slides. Yeah. Okay, actually, yeah, you can see it. The presentation has two parts, so I will give some overview about the efforts project itself, and then our little sub-project, you can say. And then Immanuel will continue talking about his research ideas, yeah, because he just started his PhD project exactly on this little project. So before I come to the project itself, the Sustainable Village project, which just started this year, I may have to say some words about the efforts project, which is much bigger. It is a very large collaborative research project started already in the year 2012 and will actually end next year, end of next year. So our project is a little bit on the side of that. We have a different funding. This is because this is why this project can last longer, in total 5 years, so will run until 2027. But let me start with the efforts project first. So this project has the rationale, or the background is actually land use change, land use transformation. And we focus on Jambi province in Sumatra since 2012. And as of course everybody knows, a huge transformation has been going on, as you can see here. Forest loss you see in red color since 1985 until 2007. So the efforts project now is looking at all the impacts that this transformation has. And in particular, the efforts project with many sub-projects actually on the natural science part, but also on the human dimensions, is looking at the impacts in terms, for example, of change in ecological functions, but also in economic functions. We have compared the rainforests, that means the original ecosystems, with 3 transformation systems. This is jungle rubber, which is more like a traditional agroforestry system. Then rubber plantation, the intensive form of rubber cropping, and all palm, which is usually planted in monoculture. For example, here you see one result from the loss in stored carbon. You see the changes in above ground and below ground carbon stocks when going this gradient along a rainforest over jungle rubber until all palm. You see tremendous losses, especially in the biomass, but also in soil organic carbon. Another example is microclimate. So you see here the change in surface temperature. When you go from forest as a reference, via mature oil palm plantations to younger oil palm plantations and bare soil, had almost 11 degrees Celsius increase in surface temperature. Originally, Sumatra was covered by lowland rainforest, and which has hosted or is still in some parts hosting very iconic species that are globally known, like orangutan, tigers, sun bears, elephants, and many more. Nowadays, these species are threatened very much, and they actually losing their last refuge, and are nowadays only in some last forest reserves they accounted. Besides these well-known iconic species, there are of course many tiny creatures that are really challenging to identify. Actually, this is only a third of the collection of ants and beetles from that area. So you can see here 14 organism groups have been studied in greater detail. You can imagine how many sub-projects, many research teams have worked on that for quite some time. So you see the results that I present here are kind of condensed results, really aggregated results. And this is also an aggregated indicator of multidiversity. You see the change from F is forest, over G is jungle rubber, to rubber R, and O for oil palm. Yeah, you see the degrees and the differences are significant. So multidiversity is an average indicator across these 14 species, indicator species groups. Again, to come back to this picture, there are of course winners and losers. And it is to say that forest specialists are most strongly affected by land use change. So when we have a transformation from rainforest, then all these species are gone. The second largest groups are generalists. This group has a potential to be preserved also in an agricultural landscape if this is managed in a wildlife-friendly way. So it is actually apparent that we have a trade-off. We talk now, or I talk now a lot about the ecological functions and biodiversity. You see here again is an aggregated way of showing this as flower petals. So each of these indices like carbon storage, naturalness, is often composed of different indicators, and then it is shown in a standardized way. So we see here that in the forest, all these ecological functions are quite extended to almost a maximum, but not harvested biomass, of course, because not so much biomass in the forest is not used that much. When you compare it to the oil palm on the right side, then you see that harvested biomass is in the focus of this, because you take out the fresh fruit bunch, whereas all the ecological functions and biodiversity on different levels, genetic and also local biodiversity, is minimized here. Oil palm area is increasing for both company oil palm land as well as for smallholder oil palm land. This is here the increase between 1990 and 2015. So the issue is there are many voices. Of course, we have now talked about the tremendous negative impact on the ecological functions of biodiversity. On the other hand side, we have to see the other side of the medal, of course. There has been a huge increase in local livelihoods and in income, in infrastructure, housing, and so on, education. Here you see just as an example, the decrease or the difference in poverty levels when you compare oil palm villages in red, for example, with villages that have no cash crops at all in dark blue. You see the difference. This is not only for farm households, but even for non-farm households. So it's also some kind of tripling down effect. So to conclude with this part, we see that obviously a trade-off between biodiversity and ecosystem functions and economic functions on the other hand side, with increasing land use intensity. So the question that we pose ourselves, and that is also very relevant in terms of the current decade of the United Nations on ecosystem restoration, is there actually in Jum'at province a potential for restoration? That means like restoring very essential ecological functions and biodiversity without compromising profits and economic benefits of the transformation systems. Well, there are some ways to explore these issues into this direction. And one possibility is, of course, to do experiments. And within efforts, this is already being done. There is one experiment on management in oil palm plantations to see whether there are many potentials to have a less intensive form of management with lower inputs and to replace herbicides with mechanical weeding and to see what happens then in terms of impact on yield, but also impact on biodiversity and ecosystem functions. And you see here the results in these graphs, and you see here that mechanical weeding actually has a lot of benefits for reduced fertilizer use as well as for normal fertilizer use. Yeah, you see that not only biodiversity functions and ecosystem multifunctions are being increased when compared to the herbicides, but also you have quite good results for economic functions. And this is, of course, because you have less expenditures for plant protection like herbicides. The other very large experiment is called effort speed. It is a biodiversity enrichment experiment in oil palm. The question behind this experiment is what actually would happen if we would plant native trees inside an oil palm monoculture. This has been done. These trees, or up to 1 to 6 different native tree species, have been planted in a special design within an oil palm landscape. And this has been researched for 8 years until now. And we see here again very condensed, very aggregated results over these 8 years. So this is a figure from a current paper, which is under review at the moment. And the results until now, so far, have been shown that this enrichment is quite a good option, a very good option in terms of restoration. You can see this on the left-hand side. In terms of species richness, you see that for many, many groups, there is an increase in diversity, yeah, for example, for bats, for birds, butterflies, of course, for trees, because besides the planted trees, there's of course natural regeneration. There's no management, there's no weeding, no putting of fertilizer, and no herbicides anymore. So no inputs on these parts where the tree islands have been planted. And on the right hand side, you see ecosystem functions that change. The green area is inside the tree island plots, and the gray is the conventional management, conventional monoculture. And of particular interest is when you see ecosystem functions, number 1, because this is all palm yields. You see there's no big difference when you look at it at a landscape scale, although yields are reduced a little bit inside the tree islands. This is compensated actually by surrounding palms, because when you have, for planting trees, we have to take out palms, and then more light has come in. So the palm, when they grow gaps around them, compensated, had higher yields, and this compensated actually for the loss inside the tree island. So until now, we see on the landscape or on the plot level, when looking at the whole plantation, there's no yield loss, but a lot of restoration potential. So now, of course, on the other hand side, there is the big question, okay, but how to implement this with farmers now? On the one hand side, there is the idea, okay, we could just go on top-down approach, and we can give in a lot of information to farmers. We did this with comics, for example, like for awareness raising, giving information, how to plant trees, what are the benefits of planting trees, and so on. On the other hand side, of course, so this has already led to a little bit to has motivated some farmers to plant trees. On the other hand side, we have to see it works much better when you give the seedlings directly. This is, of course, maybe also because it is easier when they have the seedlings directly, but we also found out that it is a structural problem, that it is not easy for farmers to get seedlings. Actually, when you provide them directly, together with the information, the result is much better. Okay, so now we want to move from another direction with our project. We will work mostly in one village, or we start in one village. This village is called Pembicara. It is in Sarolango, Jambi province. And our approach is different. So we are not designing something like information campaign or bringing seedlings directly and try to bring farmers to implement something, but we start from bottom up. So our starting point are the farmers themselves and the villagers themselves. And we want to develop sustainable land use management options together with them. And we don't stop at land use, but we also consider inputs and outputs to the land use. It means along the whole value chain. And this also not reduced on oil palm. It can also be in rubber, can also be other forms of land use. So our interest is the transformation really on micro scale, to get really the opportunity to look into what happens there in one village and where are the options and how to create community action here to reconcile economic development and ecology on a very local level. So how are we going to do this? Sustainability, as you all know, is considering 3 dimensions: the economic, the environmental, and the social dimensions. And we would like to work towards all 3 dimensions. That means we have to consider a lot of issues. We have to consider local prosperity and employment opportunities and wealth. We have to consider natural environment, the natural resource base. We have to consider social issues like inclusion. There are different groups in the village also, and there are different activity levels within the community. So that all is important to consider when working towards sustainable options. We're going to take a bottom-up approach instead of top-down. This means that we aim at creating an atmosphere of co-learning, of generating knowledge together with villagers. There are different forms of knowledge. Besides the economic knowledge, there's of course local knowledge, knowledge from local wisdom, culture, and also experimental knowledge or experienced knowledge, knowledge from learning by doing. And we want to make use of all these forms of knowledge, so the information flow is not one way, but is in multiple directions. We have found a symbol, or not we have found a symbol of Lumbung, but the Documenta has. I will explain a little bit more about the Documenta, about this art exhibition. We see here an art piece already below the word Lumbung. This is coming actually for this idea from Ruang Foresta, the curator team of the Documenta 15, a large contemporary art exhibition in Kassel, also taking place this year, and we do this project in collaboration with them. So Lumbung is of course a rice barn, but it is not only a rice barn, it is a symbol for everybody's giving in something, knowledge, time, commitment, and together we can also take out something, we can benefit from something. And I think this is a quite nice symbol also for our approach. So I won't not go into deep because Immanuel will talk more about the research that we're going to attach to this project here. Maybe just one word about that. So the different pathways or management options for sustainability are going to be defined together with the farmers on local level. So we don't know yet actually which activities we're going to conduct. We have a lot of ideas, of course, already, but we start at the viewpoint or preferences of farmers. The special thing about this research is that Immanuel, as main researcher, will be in the middle of this process. So he will facilitate the transformation process, will conduct workshops, he will organize capacity building for farmers, they will do a lot of activities, they will implement later on even some measures. This is planned. So he's also influencing the process, but at the same time, he has always to step back a little bit and look at the process itself and reflect about it. And this is his style of research. This is data collection. And the approach is called participatory action research. And Immanuel will explain about this a little bit more later. I will just give a quick overview about Pembicara village. It is located in Saulango. You see here, it is in the southern part of the Juhrbandt National Park. Has about 3,200 inhabitants. There are a lot of migrants from Java, 90% more or less are coming from Java, but there are also Minang, Melayu, and Suku Anak Dalam tribes. 2 large migration waves. The first one was within the transmigration program. About 1,500 hectares of agricultural land. Most is oil palm, but there is also rubber and rice fields. So the project kickoff was in March of this year, together with another artist collective from Riau called Ruang, and these artists, also in collaboration with Documenter, have stayed 1 month in Pumatakabau already. And then they had organized a festival for nature, society, and arts, and they have there was an exhibition of art objects that were created in the village, and there were a lot of performances. And we used also this event to make a kickoff of our project. So first workshops were exactly at this venue. This is just you see here, so a short video clip from one workshop. Farmers were sharing visions about their village, so how they would wish their village, or what they wish for the village in 10 or 15 years, or for their children later on. And they mapped out this vision in a participatory map that could look like this. For example, of course, the priorities centered first around infrastructure, education, healthcare, and issues like this, which are of course very important. It's very understandable. Interesting was on the other hand side that they don't stop at this point, but they were also talking about the forest and other resources like the river and so on, that what conditions these are, that it is important to safeguard them. So here are just 2 quotes. Some I mentioned already that it is necessary to manage natural resources sustainably, and one was also pointing at water shortages that have been caused by oil palm monocultures, and some are seeing already the necessity to also plant other trees or other kind of crops. And he's saying if all the land is only planted with oil palm trees, this could cause water shortages. Also interesting was the consideration of land use change, like rice production and rubber production. And these farmers, for example, they see the decline of those systems, and they also share their concerns about this with us. So rice production, as Leti says, for example, is declining because of the relatively low price compared to oil palm, and also the prices fluctuating a lot. But on the other hand side, it is important for food security, and this also has a cultural value, this rice farming. Also, jungle, not only jungle, but rubber plantations as such are on decline. And this farmer also mentioned, so if farmers can choose between rubber and oil palm, they will certainly choose oil palm, because it has, especially the returns to labor are higher for oil palm. Okay. So in another workshop, the villagers, together with the moderators, were also mapping out the current problems or the current obstacles to sustainability in the village. And just to highlight some interesting things that they said. So I pointed out at some of the results, the root causes to current unsustainability. They saw, for example, that there is a relatively low awareness about the sustainability concept as such in the village, but also limited information and technology transfer. And also, it was quite interesting to see that they are concerned about the dependence on only one commodity, oil palm. It said everything is dependent on oil palm. And despite the very high profit that they can get from it, they're still concerned about this issue. And also a social dimension. They mentioned that, yeah, we would need more exchange and more venues like this in a workshop, like a forum, and there actually is one at the moment, a village forum, social activities and exchange. So a brief outlook. What we intend to learn more about, also no one wants to know more later on some of these issues. So these are our research links. We could explore more deeply into sustainability perceptions, for example, the transformation as such, whether collective action is evolving as a process, and what are the success factors and barriers towards it. So how is this participatory process actually successful? How is there potential for sustainable measures like diversification on farm level, on plot level maybe, and also along the whole value chain? And what will be the impacts at the end of the measures that the farmers have chosen? The project is also based on a lot of interventions that we are going to take. And we were just there in Jum'at, and we had an excursion with all palm farmers to the FSB plot that I had talked about previously. So 22 oil palm farmers were coming with us, and we showed them around on these experimental plots, on these enrichment plots. And additionally, they could also exchange with local farmers who did also innovate with some intercropping in their oil palm, so they could have an exchange. There are further trainings also planned, further capacity building activities like trainings on certification or replanting issues, which is also very urgent because the majority of the plantations in the village is already aging. Okay, so these are just some examples for farmers already having some innovations or trying out something, and it is all in Pembicara. So by that we see also already that there is some potential in villages. So many are quite open to try out new things like intercropping, for example, with Buchori or with Unviersity. They have own nurseries, or they are testing like new innovative eco products like fertilizer or detergents. On my last slide, I would just like to introduce all the people that are engaged in this project. First of all, Professor Michael Wolny, she's the PI of this project. I'm coordinating the project. We have also Dr. Leti from IPB and Dr. Damayanti from the University with us, and Immanuel is also at our department now and his PhD. And then, of course, we cannot do this without all our field assistants who help us, and of course the villagers themselves who are motivated and show a high commitment to collaborate with us in this project. That was all. My last slide. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jana. This is a very, very good presentation. At least we can see that from the land use transformation from forest to the oil palm, there are some negative impact, especially in the ecological function. And then, but there is of course a positive impact on the economic function. But now still a question: how to reconcile between the ecological function and economical function. Now, through this project, this sustainability project, we try to encourage the people to do more sustainable land use management rather than just oil palm. That from the research, previous research from before, we can see that there are so many negative impact from the such kind of land use, just one monoculture plantation like this oil palm. So then we will have a discussion later, but now we will have another presentation from Immanuel. So please, Immanuel, start to respond.
We try to. See that? Good. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Ibu Professor Damayanti Buchori as a director of Center for Transdisciplinary and Sustainability Science, and also Pak Dr. Muhdin as the head of Forest Management in the Forestry Faculty of IPB, and last but not least, of course, my guru, Ibu Dr. Leti Sundawati as a Secretary of Forest Management. Yeah, I am together with Jana, Juhrbandt, the coordinator of my project. I will, let's say, talk a bit my research outline with the title of Community-led Sustainability Transformation in Oil Palm Dominated Landscape, a Participatory Action Research Approach in Jambi Province, Indonesia. This is myself, Immanuel, a PhD candidate in the chair of Environmental and Resource Economics, Departemen of Agriculture, Economic and Rural Development, University of Goettingen. As Jana already mentioned, that this research in the framework of CRC project 990 with the subgroup CO8 and also B11. And we also collaborate with the Departemen for a sustainable village project. I will jump to the next slide. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yes, we know that the transformation of tropical lowland rainforests into large-scale commercial monoculture crops such as palm oil, rubber, maybe cacao, and also coffee has drawn considerable attention. But on the other hand, smallholder farmers play an essential role in the recent expansion of so-called estate growth. And the majority of smallholders, for example, in Jambi province, prioritize land use options that produce a high level of economic return. Against this background, it is essential to find strategy in order to reconcile the economic advantage and also with the higher level in biodiversity. This research aims to explore and implement a transformation pathway towards a more sustainable land use value chain and chain management. We will investigate at least 2 villages in Jambi province. Jana already informed us that one of the villages of Matangkabau. Next, we will compare probably with Bungku village or with other villages that can give us some more insight to reach this research objective. The research projects aim at answering the following research questions. first we divide into two type of research questions, for the process related and also for the outcome related. I underline with the different color with the keywords. For example, for the first research question in the type of process related. How do smallholder farmers perceive environmental, economic, and social sustainability within their livelihood context? And then what are the preference of smallholder farmers concerning sustainable transformation pathways for their villages? And the last one, which success factor and barriers evolve during the establishment of a community-led planning process, and to what extent do smallholders perceive ownership in their activities? Then, in the second type of research question, we have three research questions, such as which measures of sustainable transformation have been chosen for implementation by the smallholders, and to what extent have they been implemented? Which factors are important? And the last one, which impacts relate to the environmental, social, and economic project outcomes can be identified by the end of the research project. This is one of the essential part of my research, because we will use participatory action research as the approach or method for our research. As a researcher, as well as international moderator, I will guide, facilitate, and analyze sustainable transition process at the pillar levels in Jambi province. In doing so, we will combine qualitative and quantitative research methods. Community-led sustainable transformation then will require the contribution of group members in collectively managing local community resource. This condition also known as a collective action. Last but not least, a central objective of the research using a participatory action research is that villagers develop a joint vision for sustainable land use system, which should initiate a collective action process in participatory planning. Then me, as a researcher, will be a facilitator of that process at the same time, and by that, inherently involved in planning, acting, and reflecting on the process. The outline of my PhD project steps do not always follow directional logic, but can be followed up iteratively as required. At the end, the final decision about the specific sustainable practice is the responsibility of the villagers. We plan 5 steps that will be developed together with the local community, starting from the conceptualization phase until the end of the project on 2027, that we will display the result of sustainable village projects in the Documenta 16. You can see from the screen the detail of the concept for each phase in our research. In order to publish my PhD package, then we plan to generate 3 essays or 3 papers. First of all, we will talk about participatory process and collective action. The aim of this paper is to encourage villagers to be consistently involved in park activities. And the second one, or we can also 2 ways, either this will be the first one or the first one will be the second one. It's about sustainability perception and preference. The objective of this paper is to investigate whether there's a change in the mindsets and view of the villagers. And lastly, we will implement what we already planned together with the villagers by do a paper of implementation analysis. We will find some tools that also help us to see whether the option for agriculture value chains options will really feasible. And then we can also find a market channel potential to assess the innovative product that we will use in the implementation analysis. Ibu Leti and Ibu Dama and also Pak Muhdin, we just returned from Jambi yesterday to continue the kick of the project that we have done on March 2022. Last March, we finished to set up the project infrastructure, or this is also included in the conceptualization phase. We generate or we discuss with the fellow villagers by doing a roundtable meeting to choose some villagers who wants to be a steering committee. And then we also invite villagers in our workshop to see and also to find problems, also to see what happened in their village in next 10 or 20 years ahead by using a participatory mapping and also probability analysis. And we visit one by one farmers. All of the farmers explain what they want to do or what they dream in the next 15 or 20 years old, so 20 years ahead. And then we invite them also in the next regular meeting. And this is a part of the conceptualization phase. Then we continue the kickoff project by inviting farmers in our core group meeting last week. In Matakabau, we provide a thematic workshop, and we also provide or acknowledge them about the Lumbung perspective that we use together in our Documenta 15 as a tagline. And then it was also beneficial for them because they wrote what the meaning of Lumbung based on their perspective. For example, one of the women who joined this workshop, she said that she wants to be agent of change, which is really beautiful mindset for us. Then we will also use it as the next consideration for the next workshop. And second one, we invite 21 villagers that Jana also mentioned in her slides. We already visit 3 different plots. First, we visit the experimental plot from B11 to see 6 species which are planted inside the oil palm plantation. And second one, we visit cocoa plant, which is a plant together with oil palm, or we call it the cropping plant, owned by one smallholder farmer in Buku village. And the third one, we also visit agarwood tree inside the oil palm plantation in a Bulia, nearby a Bungku. Within the discussion, we also invite the expert Pak Bambang Irawan from Unja. Then he explained more about the history and also the result of the experimental plot of a B11. It was really nice because farmer wants to know what happened if an oil palm combined with the other species, whether it will be harmful for their food fresh buds or it will give another income by generating alternative income from the intercropping plant. And after that, we have a thematic workshop to foster people in Matakabau, whether they have a insight, they gain insight from the experimental plot visits. And we also ask their feedback about our workshop as well as our field visits to B11 plot. As the next phase, we will find a potential along agricultural value chain, and we will employ a feasibility study to assess the potential innovative product. And of course, we need participation from the other people, not only from the core groups or 21 villagers to follow the excursion, but also from the other farmers. That we have a 9 farmer group in Pembicara. And last but not least, we will invite the indigenous people of Pembicara, the orang Rimba Dalam, to join us in the next, let's say, workshop or next regular meeting. I think that's it that I want to explain, and I hope it will be continued by the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mel. Very nice presentation about your research plan. And then maybe you will see that this project is starting since March this year. And so it's still in the, still ongoing, I mean, and then it's still in the, maybe the second phase, yeah, from your 5-phase plan, yeah.
It's a relatively initial.
Yeah,
phase.
Yeah.
We are already starting, and then already what's the conceptualization process, and then now starting for planning for the next phase.
So I mean, we have a lot of capacity building now, actually, right? To get information in, and then we are better with planning.
Okay. Yes, thank you for your additional information. And then now we come to the discussion. So please, if you have any question, you can also directly ask with raised hand, or you can write in the chat box. There is already one here on the chat box, one question from Ali Kusumadinata. Maybe Ali, you can also directly ask. You can speak directly, please. Hello, Mr. Ali Kusumadinata. Can you hear me?
I'd like also to ask questions second after Ali, if possible.
Yeah, Mr. Ali, you can ask directly. You can speak directly. Or should I just read your question from the chat box? Hello, Mr. Ali. Are you there? So maybe I will just read the question from the chat box. Yeah. How to ensure this training provides awareness to the palm oil community while the palm oil area itself is owned by the large palm oil company? This is some little bit. You can. Maybe I will ask. I will read another one. Mr. Immanuel, I want to ask you: does this study also count local knowledge that is economically beneficial or detrimental to the environment? And whatever the local knowledge, we know 60% has each NPTs too. Thank you. Maybe you can.
Maybe Jana, we can you can answer the first question: how to ensure this training provides awareness to the palm oil community?
Which training?
Training we provide maybe not the training, but also
The excursion.
the excursion,
Yeah.
The excursion.
and workshop.
Okay, well, these are very different things, actually. We have the participatory action research approach is like a cycle or many cycles. Yeah? The cycle, we have an action part. The action can be the training, the capacity building, for example, this excursion that we just had. And then afterwards, we reflect what has happened, what is the outcome, And then we see, okay, we observe again, how's the situation now, what is needed next, we plan for the next activity. The activity later on can also be that we plan and implement something. So it really depends on what. So training can be used to raise awareness, and it can be used to gain knowledge. I think I take the excursion as an example. I think the excursion was good for doing both. We had, on the one hand side, a lot of knowledge transfer, or also not only transfer, but both sides, both ways, actually, because farmers exchanged with other farmers. Farmers from Buchori went to Buchori and got an exchange, knowledge exchange with other farmers. And of course, with the expert, with Paramman, who gave additional information. So it was for knowledge, for exchange of experience, but also for seeing something, being directly there and experiencing something. See with their own eyes, okay, there is a oil palm plantation that looks completely different to what I know as a oil palm farmer with the conventional plantation, for example. So I think in this case, it was really both awareness raising and knowledge exchange.
So,
Okay, thank you, Jana. I hope that will answer your question, Mr. Ali. That the training such as the PLPC, it could raise the awareness. Of course, maybe not directly for the whole of the villager, but at least for the participant who are participate in the PLPC, in the workshop, yeah. And then hopefully later on it will also raise the awareness of the whole villager. And then thank you, Jana, and then Immanuel, maybe you can answer.
maybe I could
the second
also,
question.
yeah, the question is would be good if I also share again what we have done together with the villagers, like the reflection workshop. Yeah, thank you, Bapak Ali Kusumadinata. As I mentioned before, this transformation strive to enhance local biodiversity and ecosystem function, while at the same time creating and safeguarding economically interesting and socially acceptable livelihood options. For sure, we ask the villagers to see whether they have knowledge about their, for example, for their local or native tree. You can see in the middle of the picture, for example, while we did our reflective workshop, and we asked them, for example, whether they have another option for intercropping plant, oil palm and the other plant, because we only have 6 species in the B11, and they initially offer the other species. It means we don't force them, but we ask them deliberately to share their knowledge, their intention, which one better if we want to implement or apply intercropping system in their village or in their plantation. This is one of for example. And of course, like Jana already mentioned, in the experimental plot of B11 in Buchori village, they saw directly about the change of, for example, land cover of the soil that was really different if they own their, or they only have a monoculture oil palm compared with the intercropping plant. So maybe this is something that I could inform you. Thank you.
You can leave this for a moment. I can just add maybe
Yeah.
that this ranking exercise that you see in the middle is a very typical participative workshop method where you want to screen different options, for example, alternatives. You want to do this in a participatory way. So on the one hand side, you can let participants choose about the column. In this case, it was tree species, not only native tree species. We chose the ones that we have seen on the efforts plot. But we also asked, okay, do we know more species for intercropping, which should we also take? So they decided about that. Then on the x-axis, so the row, the first row, these are criteria, and not we define the criteria, but them. The question we posed them was, okay, if you would choose a tree for intercropping into all palm plantation, what would be important for you to consider? And then they mentioned, I think, planting density, they mentioned market price, they mentioned, so we put up these 6 criteria above, and then we said, okay, now we have the criteria, we have the species, now we are giving scores of plus or minus, and so then we have quite a picture, and then you can also see, okay, where do we have not enough knowledge? There's no knowledge yet, so we put question marks, and we can fill this knowledge up later on. We can do some literature research, we ask experts to get also this knowledge, right? But you see how much local knowledge comes together already, because farmers already know a lot. And they know, for example, can we access seedlings for this tree or not on local level, yeah? This is information that we do not have, for example. So this is a way to get our knowledge together, academic and local knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jana. So as Jana mentioned, I think earlier in your presentation that this project is using also the bottom-up process.
Yeah.
It means that we also incorporate the local knowledge. It is very important in this process, yeah. So this is. I hope this answer could answer your question, Mr. Ali. There is another question, I think, from Mr. Pahrijal Nashar. I think, please, Mr. Pahrijal, you can.
Okay, yeah. Halo, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Halo, Jani. Terima kasih atas kesempatannya. I have like several comments on your research. I think this is very interesting. Yeah, I think most of the development project for the past 10 years they've been already focusing on this kind of issues. Yeah, and not only in South Sumatra, and I guess it's also happening in almost all over Indonesia. Several comments to Mas Immanuel. I guess I think most of us want to get like more insights from this kind of research and similar research like this. My first comment is on your in terms of the scale of the area itself. Yeah, because when I see the planning itself, the participatory planning process, it seems that it's very small in terms of the scale of the area. It looks like that's like only on the around the housing areas, around the where people lives. Do you have also any other insight in terms of the scale of the village itself? What we call it jurisdictional approach. The smallest authority is in the village scale level, and usually on that level, we can see the other power that playing on that scale. For example, understanding for the villagers themselves, they want to understand different layers of planning above the village level, from the provincial or from the district level. So they have understanding in terms of the space that they have right now, the available APL, the available non-forest area, and to what extent are the forest area within their own village. Then we can have like more insight in terms of what sort of negotiations that they can bring about actually in terms of accessing the natural resources. What we have heard from your research presentations, it seems it's in a very small area in terms of what they are doing right now. But what we don't know is like what is the ownership of the tenurial itself. Because what we want actually, the communities that they are enabled, being able to access broader area, being able to also access the natural resources. So I guess that kind of insight is also important because they can negotiate on the supra level from that village level, accessing different, different kind of benefits from even from the public funding, from the district government. And then the other things that several other projects already also discussing about EAD, the integrated area development. I think this is also very interesting in terms of supporting the villagers. If they want to replant or intercrop with some forestry tree species, there are actually some public funding available to support them in terms of free seedlings, tree species, for example. From BPDAS HL, from the Ministry of Forestry, they do have some kind of project like that. So integrating the villagers' visions with some access towards this kind of grant, I guess it's also very helpful for the villagers themselves. The other comment is about the role of the supply chain actors. I guess that would be also very interesting, that if you can, furthering your research, not only discussing with the communities, but also with the traders and also, end buyers, whatever the products that mentioned by the communities. Because if I see from the discussions and then the three species that they pick up, then there should be some follow-up, relationship between the communities that going to plan with agroforestry mixed species with whoever the traders. Otherwise, what we also found from the other project, usually this kind of effort for this, getting them to plant more tree species, it doesn't provide, quite strong income for them at the end, if you calculate that, comparing to the intensive independent oil palm smallholder, for example. Jambi province, they have several cooperatives that already been certified by RSPO, and they do receive quite lots of benefits from that certifications. And that's also a very good comparisons between farmers that can certify and can access more, access of resources and also different financial mechanisms. They do receive more benefits, not only that, that ecological benefit, but also like much more broader access on that. The last one is comment. I want to also provide some some ideas that we are doing in East Kalimantan. The options for the non-forest area usually very limited for communities and also villagers, because they cannot access above 25 hectares. If it is above 25 hectares, that will be considered as a limited company or a private company, that the only entity that can access large chunk of land. So what we are doing in Kalimantan right now, we do this spatial planning with the villagers, and then we somehow demarcate the areas. Usually it could be within one village. It could be also connecting to the next village, and then we apply for HGO permit. We apply for that by using private entity, and then moving from that permit, putting, for example, not for oil palm, not for huge land clearing, but for example, Areca Pinang, for example, for that palm sugar. And then we do selective logging on that area, and that selective logging can provide the financial early financing for that company to run for the project itself. And then we also prepare for the carbon baseline assessment. And then we also do this kind of preparations of PDD for the voluntary carbon market. And then that can finance the agroforestry mix business within the village level. So this kind of idea, I guess, something that should and get more get more and more support from the researchers, so then we can really provide more options, not only on a small business scale, but also in a larger business scale, not to deforest the area, but providing some other alternatives. So only that. Thank you very much. Good luck for your research, Mas.
Integrated area development. It's a program from the KLHK.
Yeah.
And also, he has also some example of project in Kalimantan. So maybe you have a comment for that, Immanuel.
Thank you very much, Bapak Fahrizal Nasser. It seems that you are really expert in this program. Thank you. So I could say that all of the information that you mentioned, for example, about the funding from the national government, also for accessing in upscale province level for the coping, I would say it's like a relevant stakeholders. Yes, indeed, we plan it, but as we mentioned before, we will employ a part and it will be bottom up. In case at the implementation analysis, they would choose, for example, rubber and coffee as an intercropping plan, and then they need a seedling provided by us. We don't want to direct involve several stakeholders before we knew that it could be a long-term, let's say, continuation projects. Otherwise, the external factor or external stakeholder will, sorry to say, ruin the cycle of the park. That's something that we discussed at the beginning. That's why before we talk more with the villagers, we didn't say that we will distribute, let's say, seedling. We will bring you to the other place that you will receive much money. No, we will discuss first with them. Careful, really careful, and we will map. We will do a map, which are really important for them. That they could connect the dots with the other stakeholders. I agree with you. I do agree that's a marketing channel in our research. If we already choose together with farmer and villager, we already choose one options for the sustainable transformation. For example. Let me also repeat again my presentation. Like I show here. Yeah. In the future, probably handicraft, Ibu Dama is made from palm oil broomstick. The plate. And yesterday, we receive information from the villagers that they would upscale, they would create a new business for empowering women and young generation in Pematang Kabau. And remember, oil palm leaf, they are in a huge volume in oil palm plantation. And it will be beneficial for the future, but we will employ feasibility study and also marketing channel analysis before we start to, let's say, a system to facilitate them for creating a new business unit in the case of handicraft. And also for the other option, we will do several analysis before we start. And thank you very much that you also mentioned LSPO, and it's also important for us because Jana also and I, we plan to do a workshop, for example, invite speakers and experts. Then they will know what is the difference, let's say, between ISPO and RFPO and how to achieve and how to reach this kind of certification. Then they will have initiate knowledge. we hope that it will be continue again until they will reach the real certification. Thank you very much also for your information about your research in Kalimantan. It's really interesting, special planning, and I hope we could see your, let's say, a publication or something that we will learn more from your research. Thank you very much again, Bapak Farisal Nasser. Jana, you want to add something?
No, I agree fully with you. So inviting other stakeholders or getting other stakeholders on our table is very important. We do this time after time. So as I said, as we already pointed out, we start with the farmers and their preferences, and we will see which additional stakeholders will fit. And it will, of course, be a lot of local stakeholders, but of course also like assessing maybe funds that can help us financing what are the other options to implement. Maybe one more word about the scale. Of course, we are very limited in scale, that's for sure. This is a micro project. We don't have the capacities, don't have the personal and also not the financial capacities to run really a large development project. It is really a small, it is like a showcase. It is like testing something, experimenting with different options in really one village only, to see what is possible and what not. And this can be like also used for outreach and later on learn with that. This is why we thought it is so important to add a research component here to really do this in a structured way to get to grasp the results of what does work and what not, and how does it work actually. To learn from that, to make an outreach, and maybe get policy recommendations also for a larger scale. It's also possible to actually scale out some particular issues. If we have found some options, or maybe we want to know how our preferences in a wider area or so, it's of course the opportunity would be to run a quantitative survey and to get a bigger sample also from other villages, like opinions, insight, preferences, or stuff like this. So with this, it would be something that scale out a little bit, but not this intensive work. The villages, we really start in one village because we don't have the capacity to large scale.
Okay, thank you, Immanuel, Jana. Yeah, of course, the time it's nearly up, but please, if you still have a question.
Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate. I think this is a very, very important and very great project. And then when I, throughout your presentation, I was thinking, what you are doing is actually you're using, are you using the transdisciplinary approach? Yeah, because you don't say the word, but actually you are doing it. So since this is a buzzword right now, I think we really need also, if Immanuel, you can write down the methodology. That is what we really need right now, because people are still not sure what is a methodology for transdisciplinary approach. And I think this is one of the contribution that you can also add on the ground practices, and then you're doing the visioning, and then also finding a solution. So it's basically about co-creation, co-design, knowledge co-production. All of it is there. So yeah, I mean, from a central, the CTSS, I was sitting here and thought, oh my God, this is what CTSS is looking for all this time. So Jana, anyway, I would like to know more about this, and hopefully this will be a groundbreaking research for Indonesia and for the world. So congratulations, I think this is great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Udami. But since we start also a little bit late, I will give one opportunity for one question from the room. Maybe there is still someone who would like to ask something. I will give this opportunity. No question? So, there is no question from the chat box. I think there is no question in the chat box also. So there is someone raised hand. Okay, maybe because it's already also late. It's now it's already 5 o'clock in the afternoon. At least already and tomorrow will be weekend, so everybody is already eager to have a rest. So I would like to thank you for this very good presentation. Thank you, Jana and Immanuel, and also I would like to thank to all the participants who joined this very good workshop in this today, and we hope that you get many new insight, many new knowledge, and also I hope all of you stay healthy. Okay, thank you very much, and Bu Dami, thank you. Pak Muhdin, thank
Thank you, everyone.
I would like to close this meeting. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Oh yeah, there are